Stop talking, start doing. Stop talking, start doing.
You're looking to be more creative and innovative?
Hearing the beats.
And one of the keys to unlocking your potential is an entrepreneurial mindset. I like to say permission granted. No one is successful overnight.
Keep on keeping on.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at in the world. Welcome to the fourth day. May the fourth be with you of 31 days to PADITU. Put a dent in the universe. Well, it's getting more exciting all the time, everybody. Our guests are improving. And we are learning many new techniques to get unstuck as we go through what is clearly a new world. I had some good news come through this weekend. I was watching Warren Buffett in his annual shareholders meeting, which there were only like 3 people at. And I finally have something in common with Warren Buffett. We both have out of control hair. And so if you had a chance to watch that, if any of you out there watched that, it's something to watch. There's actually recordings of it, and I recommend getting some insights into what Warren's thinking about the future as it relates to our world and business in the United States. Okay, before we get started and go into with our first guest, one of the areas that we continue to see with all the guests is, the challenge of advancing their ideas. How do I get this to happen? How do I turn my idea into a viable business? How do I make it real? How do I advance it forward and make my dreams come true? And so what I'm going to do is we figured out what the error was related to our visualization yesterday, and it was human error, mine, of course. So we have that figured out, and we're now going to show you how to take action. I'm going to share with you right now my secret. This is true. How to accelerate anything you want to achieve in life. Here we go. I work from a timeline basis, and I'm going to draw it right here. And so follow along with me if you'd like. This is my timeline. Doesn't have to be a straight line, obviously. That's not the goal. But what I do, and this is the trick, I work in 1 week, 1 month, and 6-month time frames. So this is what's critical: 1 week, 1 month, and 6 months at a time. And this never ends. So what you see there, it just keeps going forward. But I only think in what am I going to do in 1 week? What am I going to do in 1 month? And what am I going to do in 6 months? And constantly adjusting that. And then here's another trick that's very important. I only focus on 3 to 5 areas of major focus. This is a trick, because most people are focusing on too many things at one time. 3 is ideal. If you can get down to 3 major focus areas, your chances and odds of success at moving whatever your endeavor or activity forward are increased and accelerating forward. So that might be looking like this. I've got to sign up for a number of social media channels. Again, this may never end, because now I'm going to be posting and managing those, right? I have to manage those social media. I may have to build my team. In fact, we're constantly having to build our team, right? So team development, team building. I may have milestones. So in this process, within 1 week, I'm going to launch a new website, let's say. So that ends. So once that's over, that's over. So that's not continuing going forward. You're always going to be building a team, right? That's 2 major areas right there of focus. Let's put a third one down. The third one is revenue development, let's say. Rev, cash. Right there is an ideal scenario to start moving your endeavor forward and making it real and making it happen faster. This is a trick that I use. Again, I work in 1 week, 1 month, and 6-month time frames. And then I try my best to only focus on 3 to 4 areas. If I get into 5, I'm starting to stretch myself to the point where I may be spreading myself too thin, or the team I'm working with too thin, and therefore my odds are going down. If I move into 6 major action areas, I'm moving the opposite way, everybody. I'm moving downwards. My odds of success are decreasing rapidly. 7, your odds of failure are increasing. 8, you're almost guaranteed not to go anywhere real fast. So this is hard for people. This has been hard for me. And the reason I use these tools is because I am trying my best to accomplish as many things as I can before I'm 6 feet on the ground, pushing up daisies. As much as I can. The way to do that is follow this model. We're going to be launching some Viz tools you can download soon on a new website where I'm working on, where a team of people are working on actually. And so once we have that up, we'll be posting, and you can download some Viz tools, self-guided visual thinking tools at no cost. Okay, let me do this right now. I want to do a shout out for Hoi Noti, who's just hosting a watch party in Hanoi, Vietnam. Alice Fenton, San Jose, California. Al, I'm going to get this right, Ananura, who's in Kampala, Uganda. And also Michael Baines in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for being supportive and putting up those watch parties. We're very grateful. Please, I encourage everybody out there to also put up watch parties. Don't forget to WhatsApp your questions, 202-642-7089. Also, if you would like, you can post a video, a 30-second video of your question you have, and then we will air that question, and then I will work on answering it. Be as specific as you can. Tag me, Sean Griffin, and then hashtag PADITU. Okay, Amy, who's our first guest? Mansoor, how are you? Oh, I can't hear him.
Can't hear?
Oh, there you are, Mansoor.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. Are you in Islamabad?
Yes, of course.
Fantastic. I'm glad you're home.
It's raining slightly, so I'm enjoying the rain and cloud as well.
That's wonderful. Keeps everything green.
Yeah.
How are you are involved in a lot of activities there, aerospace, startups, changing the government structure to be more supportive of businesses. How are things going in Pakistan right now?
Well, it's going up and down. Some are going fast, others are going sort of, we've launched, some of my group have launched the first Girls Innovation Center.
Yes.
And so we are trying to develop a skill at the just after the primary level. A major problem is that, especially in rural areas, the girls do not go beyond 6 years of education. So we are thinking of developing them skills so that they can work from home, both in cyberspace as well as some technology. So we are trying to build up this one pilot project in Pindi that I am, as a second generation, I'm the board member of the largest community girls' school in Pindi. And so we are developing the first Girls Innovation Center. The whole idea is,
Gratitude, baby.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. So right from the aerospace down to the ground level, so that our feet are on the ground. So we help the high-tech people also, and we also look after the people who have been left behind. How can the rural area girls make a living and make an economic sort of impact in their own backyard?
That's great, Mansoor. So, I mean, the work you're doing is so broad and so deep and so amazing in terms of, and for everybody out there, I mean, when people ask me, of all the countries you travel to and you work in, which country impresses you the most as it relates to business and the people who are conducting the business, and for me, it's Pakistan, because the entrepreneurs there have a drive and a determination, but also a smartness to them that allows them to come up with really viable and innovative solutions to any challenge we face. And I think you have your first unicorn billion-dollar business now in Pakistan, right? Homegrown? I just read.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost there. Yeah.
And so I think it's a new wave that's going to start happening there in Pakistan for sure. It's been a long time coming. Amy, thank you. You got a unicorn. Thank you.
That's an inspiring unicorn.
That was unplanned and beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you have any question for me? Is there something we can co-solve together, or help you with any of your endeavors you've got going on?
Yes, at times we have to look at especially the girls in the rural areas,
Mhm.
and about 10 to 12% people do understand in writing instructions. They do understand what is to be done, but majority of them, 80 to 90%, the environment does not, hold them that kind of theoretical and practical. So this symbology and this blocks and this visual, I think, would be very helpful for building up a skill sort of set for them. And we are not looking at purely, gender conscious skills. We are looking at perhaps developing mobile repair shops for the girls, young girls, looking at, telecom, services, looking at battery charging rooms. So we're not only, looking at girls innovation centers with stitching for the girls or embroidery or things like that, but we are looking at a 21st century, sort of a business based on homegrown and local technology with local economic impact. So many a times I feel perhaps, instead of writing down and giving them, sheets of paper, do this, do that, train this, it's always better to have a kind of a, visual tool so that they understand more, because they are more akin to visualization rather than taking over the words, because they hardly are going through a language barrier, understanding the environment impact, and we are trying to tell them to develop skill levels. So I was just, when you invited me, this is the one thing I immediately got into my mind. How can we best, very simply through visual tools, explain what we want them to do in the next, like you mentioned, 1 month, 6 months, or 1 week. So that would be very helpful. But be mindful of these girls and their background. They're totally rural area. They've never been exposed to, the city life, and never been exposed to, that kind. So we're talking about an inclusive, nature of how do we develop skill levels.
Well, you're talking my language. You talk about visual thinking and helping people visualize. In terms of learning, it's a natural way we process information. We're actually retaught how to think when we think linear. Um, Let me ask you a couple questions. So, how old are these girls?
13 to 15 years.
13 to 15 years.
Well, I was about to tell you, just that's a primary. We what we have built in with this community school that we are running as a pilot project. We actually, some of these girls, we provide them free education.
Mhm.
So we have more than 2,000 girls students. This community school in Pindi, in a large campus, one of the largest in Pindi, Islamabad, for girls' school. And within that 2,000, 10% of the girls come from the poorest background, which
Mhm.
means they're poorest of the poor. So we are building up that kind of know-how, and then taking this pilot project to rural areas. How we can best give free education, primary, which means 2 years preschool, if they come in at 3 or 4 years age, 2 years of preschool, and then 6 years of primary school, which means 8 and 4. So we're talking about anywhere between 13 and 15. So that is the age group.
We know something really important statistically about women, girls who are 13 to 15. They're ripe and primed for STEM. So their minds are open to a more engineering, mathematical kind of learning process. You match that with what I know about Fiverr and how many Pakistanis are on Fiverr providing services of all different types. It seems to me, Mansoor, that you just leapfrog past all of the traditional education and you start teaching them how to program, build websites, anything that can help them understand how to develop and something that people are trying to buy through a Fiverr or 99 Designs or some other platform that exists would and people don't really care so much about as who's on the other end, as long as they're providing a strong a quality product in the end for them at a very inexpensive price in terms of what you get on Fiverr. But what I could see is that would grow and their experience would grow over time, and you could actually market and sell that these are girls in rural areas who are being retrained, upskilled to provide web services, other technology services. And my guess is that they would learn that really quickly at this age. And again, you would just bypass, forget all the traditional education stuff and move right into, or match it with more of the traditional reading and writing so they can communicate with the people on Fiverr. But it's really more strategic and targeted. I'll pause there. What are your thoughts on that? Or have you already been considering that?
Yes, definitely. In fact, you've just hit the nail right at the head, because even before we launched this innovation center, the first thing we did was we created a media center, and we put the girls in charge, the senior, the O-level girl students and the A-level and the college students, because we give education right from preschool to class 12. So we had a mix of these young girls coming from the lot that we were trying to work out, who are having on scholarship, the poorest of the poor girls, interacting with senior girls. And we've set up the media center. We were almost, looking at what kind of programs we can introduce when the schools all closed down because of the COVID. So we are at that stage. And we were fortunate that our community school already had a lot of labs for skill training of girls. We had, design center where the girls on computer could design the clothings, but they were doing it only as a part of their course syllabus, and then
Right.
then cooking and stitching, with using computers. So that was one aspect of the course syllabus built in within their classes. So we are expanding that, but before we could, do anything, the first thing was setting up this media center. And then this media center, is static now because the schools are closed, but it's all ideas now are in our mind, what we all want to do. So this is a beautiful input that you've given as a first product coming out of that media center.
But I'm going to challenge something here, and I know you believe this too, Mansoor, because we work very hard on developing the We Create Center there in Pakistan for women entrepreneurs. I challenge that the stereotypical type of programming. So it sounds like there's some curriculum that's being related to technology and teaching programming, but it's tied to the stereotypical roles that women play, and I just would challenge that, and I would because that's an unconscious bias or a conscious bias that can hold, as we know, hold women back. And so what we want to do is move them to a place where they're actually producing whatever website or whatever they want to produce instead of, and maybe some of them are in fashion. So I know fashion's a big deal, and a lot of people are passionate, women are passionate about that, and men too. But I would move it to a more universal position where it's like, because it's a step-by-step process, and it can tie back to visual tools, and there's already courses online, so they can still be learning how to build those websites if they have access to a computer to do this, but have them focus more on the universal steps, and then they can choose how to apply it. And then I would train them how to get onto Fiverr. So when I do trainings and train other people how to do crowdfunding campaigns and run them through a crowdfunding boot camp kind of environment, this would be kind of a get on Fiverr boot camp, and everybody would be on boot camp after that session. All the women, all the girls who were part of that, and so
this is exactly sorry.
Women play. That's it.
This is exactly what my strategy was that you're mentioning, because they were already doing this as part of their classwork, and now we've created a new place, a new environment with girls. Girls want absolutely out of box solutions, and that's why we put in all those colors, or we create in this separate lab or room. We call it an innovation lab. So we are not doing the same on the same labs. We even change the environment. So we bring in these young girls, and we call it innovation lab. They can sit there, and exactly what you're saying, they can plan their web development. They can go on cyber. I took Murtaza twice. I took one of the leading women entrepreneurs who are doing freelance. Pakistan is the third largest freelance in the world. So I've taken 2 or 3 leading women entrepreneurs who are involved in this freelancing, talking to 300, 400 of these girls, convincing them what all we can do. So this is exactly what I have in mind, getting them off the hook from the mainstream and looking at a new way of of doing things. And 13 to 15 years, you're absolutely right. They're more open-minded, fresh ideas, and this is the age where either they get into the line of the normal standard thing, or they do something different. So we're catching
The
them
odds are they
here
get married, right? And then, or not married, but they get themselves in a situation
Yeah.
where they're in a spiral of
Yeah.
poverty. And so, Mansoor, it makes my day to see you. Keep up your great work. You are definitely PADITUing, and let's keep posted on this, rural girls, and you're advancing them and seeing how you're doing it even during this COVID-19 period.
Okay, thanks a lot, and thank you for having me. And I would now beg leave because my time to open the
Happy
fast.
Ramadan to you as well. Thank you
Okay,
very much.
see you then, and thank you for the invitation. And we'll go ahead with a
See you
lot of
again
great.
soon.
Okay, take care.
Sure.
Bye bye.
Wow. There you go. This show is about putting a dent in the universe. And there you go. Mansoor continually, year after year, day after day, week after week, is dedicated to putting a dent in the universe. And we're hoping that it inspires you to put a dent in the universe too. Who is our next guest, Amy? Vivian, how are you doing? I can't hear you. Are you unmuted? You're muted. Can you unmute her, Amy?
Okay.
There you are.
Unmute.
Hey, Vivian.
Hi.
How are you? It's been a long time.
I'm doing great.
Good. I know you always are putting a dent in the universe. How are things in Cambodia?
The thing in Cambodia, from perspective of a trainer, teacher, because now all go online.
Yeah,
So
online.
yeah, everybody go online. So we have challenges
Of course.
here in Cambodia. Even big organization have some challenges
Of course.
at the moment, and with resources, with not being prepared, not being prepared, no preparation in advance to take on these challenges.
Yeah, and you were, I'm sure, because you're right there near China, that you were like one of the first areas to lock down as well, like Vietnam. I know locked down early during this.
We've been not really a lockdown. Our government only put about 1 week during the Khmer New Year holiday, stopping people from moving from one place to another, especially across provinces.
Got you.
So, and now we've been opening up, and since April 16. So it's good for us.
Yeah.
But the challenge is, like for the economy, not just health, but it's related to also economy impact on everybody, from personal, family, businesses, and the government.
Well, I know that you are strong and will persevere through and showcase what's possible there in Cambodia, particularly for women business builders and entrepreneurs. Do you have a question you'd like to ask me that we can work on together to overcome any challenge you may be having?
Yeah, for me, I would like to help more women to be strong mentally, emotionally, and also financially. That's always been my passion. I would like to see them transform, especially from the very grassroots level.
Now, let me ask you this. So I know you've been working with women and supporting and empowering women for quite some time, and we've collaborated together over the years. What are you doing different right now than you were doing before in terms of engaging and supporting these women business builders and women in general to empower them to be stronger, more resilient?
Yeah. I've been doing since we create left Cambodia. Sadly, I never give up on going and helping women in different way. And I joined organization that helping young women at community level in the provinces. And I travel to with them together with the association. One program called Women Bright, so helping young women in the rural area in the provinces to, for me, as a trainer, I go volunteer as a trainer there.
Yep.
So I help young women by giving them tool, empowering them to prepare their life planning,
Yes.
and also career planning. That's what I.
So you're volunteering for that, right? And what
Yes.
what are you doing for revenue right now? Or what do you?
For revenue, I'm doing coaching.
Coaching. You're doing that remote
now? Now we preparing to put into remote because we were not prepared before.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a 6-week program, and helping them to put their life and everything into perspective and take action.
Okay, good. So here's what I'm thinking for you, right? That you're online. You want to create kind of a membership model, right?
Yeah.
Look at a membership model where maybe they pay monthly.
Yeah.
A fee that's reasonable for the context of Cambodia.
Yeah.
And that membership fee would be monthly, and for that they would gain. One of the key things that people want is access. So that would be not just the tools or your 6-week curriculum, but it's access to you, right? And this is a Cambodia. And then what I would do is that, and I would be I do this online, and then you're not limited, right? Because you're right next to Thailand, and there's other countries there, so you may be able to pull in from those different neighboring countries where you'd be able to have them become members, and then I would pull in some of your mentors from your network and have them participate and become a value add, and you get access to this mentor network.
Yeah.
And then I'd position Vivian for when it passes and start positioning to run specialized workshops in the physical world.
Yep.
That would be tied to the members, would get special access to those, and they might pay a little more to get access, but this would be specialized. My drawing and not looking at what I'm writing isn't working. So specialized workshops, special workshops that you would then be able to perform physically in the real world after this. After we pass, are you doing anything like this right now? Or you're in the process of going online? So I people will pay. I don't know what the price they'll pay, particularly if it's access to you and the network of the mentors, the best mentors you have, and potentially some of the more well-known mentors. I know, I can't remember her name. She owns that large building, and what's her name?
Tanda.
Yeah, right. And so people like that would be good to bring on and showcase, and in a similar format, because I think because I don't think people are really interested in a lot of directive kind of thing. Everybody's doing that. It's more of a live interaction, so they get to know how you go about coaching in your local language within the local context that can allow people to advance, get unstuck, achieve their goals, move faster. I'll pause here.
Yep.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great idea, suggestion, because everything changed, and yeah, we need to change and re-strategize what we do.
That's right. And so I think that, remember, the key thing here is access, right? That's the value in this. There's a lot of people out there who have a lot of programs that are online. They're charging quite a bit of money for those, but there's no access. It's just curriculum, modules, videos, archives, but there's no real access to that. And that is the differentiator.
Yeah, I understand. It's a accountability partner. You have somebody that accountable to what they want to achieve, right?
So I'm looking at it a little differently, Vivian. I'm not looking at it as so much one-on-one. So let's say you have 100 members. You have 100 paying members. Your access could be a 1 to 2 hour group coaching session, just like this. So the access is a group kind of access.
Coaching.
And then they would pay extra for one-on-one. So that's not the same as the group kind of. And then have some kind of giveaway, or give it away to get it back kind of model where you're contributing and offering coaching advice, wisdom, knowledge for no cost, similar to PADITU. And I think that you could kill it. I think you could really do great there, and you've already got a great network, right?
Yeah.
You're your own brand there. Everyone knows you, and so build off of that, and then grow it from there. You're positioned so well.
Yeah, this is what I love. What I love is to teach, to empower people, and help them transform and grow.
Yeah, wow. You keep doing, Vivian, and thanks for being here. We're going to follow up and check in on you on your progress in terms of expanding your ability to PADITU through your online coaching, mentoring, advisory, and empowerment. Thank you, Vivian. So good seeing you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sean. For the opportunity.
As always.
And
you make me smile. Bye, Vivian. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Yeah, the key here is to think different, because when you're online and you go from the physical, and if you've never done it before, take me for example, day 4. I've done remote trainings and I've done remote, but I've never intentionally said, okay, this is a new way, this is a new adventure, and I'm embracing it 100%. I'm full pot, 100% in. Let's go. Now, not everybody's going to be able to take that kind of initiative, but I think this is important for people to be taking and thinking about and doing research on, engaging people who know, whatever, collecting people as a team who you can identify to help you understand how do you translate what you're doing in a physical world into the online world. It's going to be critical. I'm going to say that this coronavirus is not going away. They're here in the United States. They're canceling school for 2021 right now. So schools are being canceled. It's a sign. It's not going away. Things are not going to change until there's clearly some type of vaccine, and online's where it's going to be. And if you want to continue to have the impact PADITU, we got to figure out how to do this online. Okay. And Vivian, I wish you the best of luck, and we look forward to checking in on you, and keep on keeping on. Amy, do we have another guest? Carrie, how are you doing?
Up, I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
You're looking good too. Book collection, man.
Yeah.
Twice?
Pardon me?
You read all those books twice?
I haven't read all of them once, but I read parts and pieces of all of them, and I got that affliction. There's a word for it in Japanese where I buy more books than I can consume. But
what's the word?
I'll look it up somewhere. I found it somewhere. So it's a phenomenon, like a psychological phenomenon.
That's great.
From which I suffer.
Well, mine is collecting stuff.
Yeah, but the interesting tie in there, Sean, is like where does that curiosity come from, and where do we lose it, right?
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, that's really, you know, maybe we can jump off right there. Like my thing is the entrepreneurial mindset, right?
Yep.
I've spent the last nearly 30 years like trying to deconstruct the mindset and the methods of the underdog entrepreneur, right? So, you know, at first I was thinking, well, you know, how does the everyday entrepreneur do it? How does somebody that has no big ideas, they're not at Stanford, you know, they don't have like any intellectual, they don't have any special personality, they're not particularly charismatic or whatever. Like, how do they do it? Right? And I started interviewing all these underdogs, Sean. And I tripped into something that is like just utterly fascinating, right? Like it's almost like it's like you got to think of it as a phenomenon. Like you got to suspend the idea for a minute that entrepreneurship is about business. And you got to look at the human as an organism that's trying to adapt and survive in its environment. Right? And as humans, we adapt in our environment by making ourselves useful to other humans. Right? Like, so Sean, like what I thought we would do maybe is like kind of like, you know, I love this idea from Elon Musk of like the first principles. Like, let's break it down to its most basic concepts to put a dent in the universe. Like we got to figure out like the intersection between our own natural interests, our natural abilities. Like when you put those two things together, so if you think of a Venn diagram, the first sphere is your natural interests. And the interesting thing is you don't really get to pick those things. They're in you on your hard drive. I mean, you're interested in like football because you know, whatever. But like you have natural interests that are unique to you. And you have natural abilities, things that you're capable of being good at. Right? And if you kind of loop those two spheres together, I think what you have is authenticity. Right? Like that's how we can think of authenticity. And then like that makes you, like as Naval Ravikant said, like you escape competition through authenticity.
That's rich.
No one can be you. No one can be Sean Griffin better than Sean Griffin. Right? And the work you're doing is like proof, is evidence of that, right? The dent you're making in the universe is like phenomenal.
Thank you, Gary.
And so, like, first of all, like kind of put those two things together. And then the third sphere is like the needs of your fellow humans. So like when I talk about entrepreneurship, I'm trying to avoid business terms that dehumanize it, like markets and segments and channels and all that. It's like, no, you're a human. You have interests and abilities. You're on this journey to try to figure out how to intersect those things. Right? How to make yourself useful to other humans. Like that's it. And the more useful you become, the better off you're going to be. Right? So you can think of an XY axis, right? Where the vertical is your usefulness and the horizontal is the number of people that you're going to be useful to.
Yeah.
It's like a brain surgeon is like high and to the left. They're really, really useful to like 5 people.
Right.
Right? But then you got like, you know, Beyonce. She's 99 cents useful to a whole lot of people. So she's like low and to the right.
Yeah.
But the premise is, and this is what I want to get to ultimately, is that we learn not to think this way. We learn we're conditioned to make ourselves useful within the context of an established organization where the useful thing has already been determined by someone else.
Mhm.
So you're expected to fulfill a predetermined, well-defined role, right?
Yep.
And so that's the box, right?
What box?
And so, you know, the thing I'm trying to get to here is like, so you start paying attention to rules. Like, school is designed to bring you into the world as it is, right? And it never contemplates, like, maybe you could need some skills to think about what the world could be. Like, those are absent. Our systems of education are still predicated on these 19th century, you know, centralized control. Somebody else is going to figure it all out. They're going to tell you what to do, and they're going to give you your little paycheck for doing it.
Yeah.
And you know, depending on where you are in the world, I'm trying to be culturally sensitive here. Like, that kind of worked for a minute.
We are, Gary.
I realize that, but from a U.S. perspective,
Yeah.
you know, in the 1950s, like, everybody got a car and a house and a boat, right? You didn't have to, like, there's an abundance of relatively low-skilled, high-paying, lifetime jobs. So you didn't really need to learn how to think critically and creatively, and how to be, you know, innovative, how to be resourceful and resilient. And you didn't need those skills. So they're absent.
Yeah.
Right? And it never occurs to people. I mean, this is the nature of a mindset, which is kind of what I'm interested in, the entrepreneurial mindset. Is your mindset is sort of made up of these deeply held beliefs and assumptions that are so deeply embedded in our individual and collective psyches that we don't even know they're there.
It's this unconscious bias as well.
There's unconscious. It's not necessarily a bias, but you can think of it as like, there's like mental models, beliefs, assumptions that are guiding all of our decisions. And these beliefs and assumptions and mental models worked at one point in time. They were effective. Otherwise, we would not have adopted them. But the world has changed. But in the meantime, what's happened is those mental models they're now on autopilot. Right? So another way to think about this, Sean, is, you know, how do you remove, like, the doctor says, Sean, you have a tumor. It's in your body somewhere. We got to get rid of it, but we don't know if it's in your little toe, in your left ear, in your, you know, in your stomach, in your head. They don't know where it is. They can't see it on an fMRI. So that's how to think about our beliefs. Like, we're operating on beliefs that we don't even realize that we're operating on, right? I mean,
that are looking more and more outdated.
Correct. And you know, ultimately,
Gary,
what I want to get.
Gary, so from all these interviews?
Yep.
And I mean, you've traveled. This is all over the country, U.S.
Yep.
And you've done some work in South America as well. Right?
We've interviewed entrepreneurs in South Africa, Europe, North America, Latin America.
Right.
Yeah.
So everywhere. And what is the one takeaway you can provide the audience here in terms of a thing they could do to shift their mental model, to start thinking different in a more effective way? Because it's a practice. It's a learned skill. It's learned. You can learn it.
It's a great question, Sean. It's the question. You're asking the right question. So after interviewing hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs,
I want to know.
I found this universal assumption that's deeply embedded in the mind of the entrepreneur. And it's so deeply embedded, they rarely have the ability to articulate it clearly. Right? So, I mean, it's like the rules of grammar in your native language. You learn them by the age of 4 or 5 with no instruction from anyone. but you can't articulate those rules to another human being to save your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the knowledge and the assumptions. That's sort of a good representation of our mindset, right? Okay. Yeah. So I think
I want to change that model. I want to change my thinking. I want to change the way. I want to reprogram my brain. I want to reboot it. I want to,
right.
Reboot.
Right. So
I got like a computer. I got to upload and get some new software.
And this is, it drives me nuts when people are always talking about think outside of the box. That's like, a lot of cases, that's kind of like a useless metaphor. It's like, what the hell is the box? It's like David Foster Wallace's commencement speech, like the fish, right? The two fish swimming along, and they pass an old fish. And the old fish nods at the two young fish and says, "Good morning, fellas. How's the water?" And the two young fish keep swimming along until one looks at the other and says, "What the hell is water?" Right? Mm-hmm. But let me get back to your question.
Yeah, please.
So this core assumption is that it's my responsibility to figure out how to make myself useful to other humans. Mm-hmm. Like that's the genesis of the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's like where we shift the locus of control. But again, we don't say, "Hey, my name's Gary. I have an external locus of control." Right?
That's right.
But what happens is like once you start to think like, how can I make myself more useful to more people? You realize like you don't need a fancy degree to do that. You don't need money to do that. You don't need to be a charismatic type to do that. You don't need to be an inventor or a genius.
Anybody.
The employee mindset teaches us, thanks to the division of labor, to focus very narrowly, right? The entrepreneurial mindset, we broaden the focus, like we open the aperture of the lens to start thinking with empathy, like, what the hell is going on here? What's missing? How can I make this situation better? And make that like a mental habit. Like the trash can doesn't make any sense in this corner of the room. Let's put it over in that corner of the room. Like start doing that now, right?
Yeah.
You're not waiting for the big idea. But you have to start paying attention to what other people want and need, right? I mean, I think that's
awesome.
That's really it. And from there, like you start developing the attitudes, the behavior, the skills.
That's great. It's practice, right? It's a muscle. You got to practice and you got to strengthen it. And it's like I've been talking about over the last few days. It's we all have to get more uncomfortable. Entrepreneurs are comfortable being uncomfortable. Right? That's practice.
You got to tolerate ambiguity is really what you're talking about, right?
It's right.
And like I'm telling my adult children this, like the ability to tolerate ambiguity is a superpower. Mm-hmm. It's a superpower. And this is what I'm telling my kids.
What's your superpower? I love it. Yeah.
It's like I say to my kids who are, in their late 20s, one is about to turn 30, like, either you learn how to tolerate ambiguity or you will always be at the mercy of someone who has.
That's right.
Right?
It's beautiful.
As humans, we loathe to walk down a path of uncertainty. We loathe to walk down a path where no one else is on that path. We loathe to walk down a path where the outcome is not assured. Right? And
where does this come from, though, Gary? Because, I have an 18-month-old little boy, and he boom, because me, I'm like, all right, I got a chance to set up and help mold in the best I can with his own personality, not project my own stuff on him, but help make him more empathetic, more caring, more self-determined, more comfortable in uncertainty, kind of an ambiguity person. Is it start there at that? Is that the beginning? And that's where parents.
It totally does. It totally does, Sean. It totally does. I mean, here's another way to think about this.
I'm a beginner, Gary. I am like such a beginner.
Oh, but it's like, here's the thing to remember, Sean. I'm working on a blog post right now about lecturing birds on how to fly.
Right. good.
Because that's the business you and I are in. Like, let's just face it. That's the business every educator is in, right? And so let's start with this basic assumption that humans, like every other mammal, is born with the innate desire and capability to figure out everything they need to learn to adapt and thrive in their environment. It comes on the hard drive, right?
It's programmed in.
And it's programmed, but again, you know, and we see evidence of this, Sean, in our space, in the entrepreneurial community. I see like an overwhelming amount of evidence of people with average intelligence teaching themselves all kinds of amazing things without the guidance of another, without a formalized structure or a teacher or any of that formalized learning processes. You know this, Sean. You see it every day, right? The evidence of it is abundantly clear. Yet you will rarely hear of such cases in the halls of the academe.
Because that would work against them and their elite status.
They need us to believe that we need them.
That's right. I understand.
Right? And so that's why, you know, look, again, from a Western perspective, you know, entrepreneurship education has exploded on university campuses over the last 20 years. Guess what? Startups are in decline.
I know.
Right? So what's going on there? I mean, part of it, like,
when we build and we are engaging in helping to design or develop any kind of accelerator, and the first thing they want to do, business accelerator, first thing they want to do is put it on a college campus. Our first reaction is that's the last place we want to go, because that's an intimidating place. You won't get it won't.
It's antithetical.
It's not inclusive, and people just really get uncomfortable for the most part being there, unless you are an academic type of person. And so there's no question that. Were you listening? Were you able to hear Mansour, in the rural girls programming? And just forget the traditional and just leapfrog into what's the specific skill you can train them that these girls are already ripe to learn right now. And it's common sense. It doesn't take a lot of intelligence to figure this out. Just do it. And then what happens is you get academics to come into it, and this is where Mansour will be able to bypass all that. And if he's hearing and listening to this still, that is a key, I think, right now, is to just tailor the skills to what is needed, and then meeting them where they're at, not where you think they should be at.
Well, let me riff on that for a second, because that's how I'm putting the dent in the universe. I've educated 2,500 educators on how to be effective with entrepreneurship.
I'm one.
Right? Yeah, right on, man. Likewise, I've learned from you just as much, Sean, and inspired by you as well. But the other thing that I discovered in this research, you know, so as I started interviewing entrepreneurs, Sean, I started looking for the common and replicable factors in their behavior. So if you said, well, my dad gave me a $500,000 loan from my trust fund, like, I'm not interested in that interview.
Right.
I'm not interested in Elon Musk because the dude's got $100 million exit from PayPal and an IQ that's off the charts. That's not common. It's not replicable.
And he also
reprograms
his brain on a regular basis. He has like these techniques to change the way he thinks.
He's just an outlier. I mean, he's such an outlier to the extent that it's not really useful to the average person.
That's right.
And so the conclusion I've come to is that like non-entrepreneurial behavior is learned, right? That we're all driven by this innate desire.
My mother would agree.
To master this ambient environment and to do things that benefit other humans. Like, here's an interesting fact, Sean. You cannot tap into the deepest level of motivation unless the work you are doing is benefiting other humans. And you can see that. That's not my moral, over-caffeinated opinion. That's in the psychological literature.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just like linear thinking, though, Gary. It's the same thing. And linear thinking is part of that because we naturally think in radiant style. Look behind me. That's how we think. and we're retrained how to think linear. And so that must be part of the process of eliminating the entrepreneurial spirit in us.
Yeah. But ultimately, Sean, what I'm trying to get to is that, most of the world is making what psychologists would call a fundamental attribution error. And that is a fancy word.
English, Gary. What does that mean?
English, por favor.
I can't understand.
It's the fundamental attribution error is the tendency to over-attribute a person's behavior to their traits, to their hereditary traits, while ignoring all the invisible situational factors that, it turns out, have a much more powerful influence, such that it renders our hereditary traits more or less irrelevant. Now, if you think about the value that entrepreneurs bring to a community, to society, to the organizations, the communities they inhabit, no one would argue they're the most important players in a modern economy, right?
Yep, I'd agree.
Yet we basically assume that it's trait-based, that every once in a while a Zuckerberg comes along, pops out of the chute, and the rest of us should just be prepared for cubicle hell, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from here, Sean, the idea is this: the only distinguishing factor between an entrepreneur and a non-entrepreneur is the nature of the goal they are pursuing. In other words, it's the goal that elicits the behavior.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
You got it? You got what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm clear.
So if your goal is to get a diploma so you can get a good job, that means you are extrinsically motivated, which is a weaker form of motivation.
Right.
For us, Sean, the work we do is the reward. We're not doing this for some separable reward, for prestige, for dollars, for letter grades, for whatever, right?
Yep.
And so what's the goal you're pursuing? If you ask most people that, they're kind of like, look at you like a deer in the headlights.
Right.
A steady paycheck, okay, fine. Like, that's just not that compelling. Right? It's like, how are you going to make a dent in the universe? Sean, when a human being is approached with an opportunity, and you know this and you've seen it in other people, right? Mm-hmm. You have the same physiological response you do when you're faced with a threat. Mm-hmm. Your body prepares you to approach, not to avoid. But you start shallow breathing, and you see it in your workshops. You see the toes start tapping, the legs start bouncing. You can see people look out the window. The minute that happens, you can see it.
Yep.
They stop listening to you, not because they're bored, because they just had a holy, mackerel moment.
I love it. Boom.
Right? And the energy, they start hyperventilating. Yeah. That's your body, that's your soul trying to get you to move towards it. Right? So we need to stop looking at entrepreneurs as this rare, unique thing. And we need to recognize the extent to which our systems of education and our organizational structures systematically inhibit the development of entrepreneurial attitudes, behaviors, and skills.
Gary, you are a gift to the world. Keep doing what you're doing. We're running out of time here. Will you come back on?
Sean, I'm happy to help.
This is
I'm
great.
stuck at home. This is the longest I've gone without being on a plane for like a decade.
You and me both. I'm like, what?
I know.
I do not miss airports at all.
Yeah. I just miss I miss interacting with people around these ideas. I'm working on a new book. I'm kind of hunkered down in the basement, thinking and writing, but I'm happy to do it. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Gary. We are grateful for you and taking time out. And let's maybe what we do is we talk a little bit more about how we next time we have a little more structure to this, and give a lesson and tie it to some visual tool we can give away to people.
Yep, happy to do it, Sean.
Great, thank you, Gary. Have a wonderful.
Happy to do it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Wow, that was enlightening and critical information. Chills up the back of my spine. I mean, I have a saying. It's called, the idea that you're having to think out of the box. And I'm going to amplify Gary here, and this is for everybody who's out there. The idea of we have to think out of the box is acknowledging that there's a box. And so my saying is, what box? The only boxes that exist are the boxes you create yourself. And it's hard, I know, because most of us are not practiced. I mean, I've got 30 years or more in entrepreneurial mindset activity where it's natural behavior. I don't have to think about it anymore. This shows an exact result. It was like, oh, this makes sense. Okay, this is a new goal. Let's go make 31 days to PADITU. It was a very natural process. It didn't take much effort, except the effort from the team to be able to put this all together. But the mind was ready to go. And so for you out there, I think it's important what Gary is saying here, and that is, wherever you are in the world, you've been taught, generally speaking, how not to be entrepreneurial in any kind of traditional education environment. And so you're going to have to figure out how to reprogram your brain, rethink, and maybe that's what we'll work on next time, is how to reprogram your brain to be more entrepreneurial, because it's not about starting a business, as Gary said. It's about acting and behaving and thinking more like an entrepreneur to become a more valuable human on this planet. And with that, I'm going to check off day number 4. Amy, I think I'm going to get sad when we get to like day 21 or something, because that means only 10 days left. And I'm starting to really enjoy this a lot. And I hope everybody out there is too.
I'm going to miss it. This has already been extremely exciting. Thank you, everyone, for the contributions.
Do we have a world premiere coming, Amy, of anything soon or anything? What's happening here? I think we have a world premiere soon.
We do. We have 2 announcements coming. We have 2 announcements coming, and we have a new segment that'll come every Sunday. That's a big announcement. And we also have an artist who defies all the odds and created something so catchy, I think everyone will be humming it to themselves. So we're going to leave that lingering out there till we can get that prepared. But I'm so excited. It's going to be very, very fun. Relatable, totally relatable. You're going to want to TikTok dance to these things. They're great. Okay.
What's a TikTok, Amy?
Well, the older generation will call it a tic-tac, so be careful. But we're going to have a lot of fun.
Can you throw my breath in there?
I have one video on there that has 24,000 views. One video, my first video, and it's weird.
That's incredible.
Totally an anomaly. And
get on TikTok and start doing your thing
there. And while you're at home, just if you're bored, it's a good time. It's a good time. But we'll share more.
Okay, Amy, thanks for all you did to keep the show running so smooth. What a fantastic producer you are. Everybody, we'll be back tomorrow. Same PADITU day, same PADITU time. Thank you so much.
You got to never, ever give up. Keep it up, keep it up. Never, ever give up. Keep it up, keep it up. Never, ever give up. Keep it up, keep it up. Never, ever give up.
Believe in yourself and you'll go far.